Right, so what happened was, obviously we bought all this stuff, and we don't know anything about anything really. So Arthur came round one day, and Arthur's got a Puch racing motorbike. So he looked at it and he went, "Oh yes," he said, "that's Puch," he said, and blah blah blah. Well, we didn't know any of this. So I thought, well, seeing as Arthur did it and he knows all the names, we get him round and he could tell us all about it. And apparently, this old boy was very important.
That's right. So it was a chap called Dr. Joseph Ehrlich, who was an Austrian, born and raised in Vienna. And he came over to the UK prior to the outbreak of the Second World War in about 1937. Whether he was of Jewish descent, I don't know, but he thought he would be better off in the UK. So he came over, and he after the Second World War, he started the Ehrlich motorcycle company that was using basically Puch-designed engines. And that's why I instantly recognised the shape of the finning on the tops of the heads here, because in my collection I've got a 125 split single two-stroke bike that was probably a works bike ridden by Frank Berman, and the shape of the finning on the top is identical to the 125 bikes. So he had the Ehrlich Motorcycle Company. The bikes raced on the Isle of Man very well in '52, coming 6th and 9th in the ultra-lightweight TT category. And he also developed two-stroke bikes using the split single, which is obviously what this is, for roadster bikes. So he had a 250 and a 350 as well. And they were really not that successful. Post-war, obviously, everybody wanted cheap transport. But I think for people's tastes, four-stroke was where they knew where things were, and this sort of quite complicated split single two-stroke design was a bit more than most people could take. So anyway, the Ehrlich Motorcycle Company wound up in about '53, and then Joseph Ehrlich went to work for Austin, which became BMC, in about 1954. And I think obviously he took this design with him, his knowledge of the two strokes, which he tuned very well, and they, as I said, they were quite successful in '52, and subsequently later, after he joined de Havilland in 1958, he was also very successful and came second in the ultralight category in 1962 with drivers like Mike the Bike Halewood, who lived not far from here. And so obviously he used this design, the split single design, and tried to develop it into a prototype engine for use by BMC, as it had then become. Yeah,
so there's a good chance he would have known Isagonis, possibly.
Yeah, very, very strong likelihood, I think. They had very similar backgrounds. They both came from sort of wealthy European families. They were both multilingual, rather, like the high life. And that was something that really caused offence, I think, in the motorcycle community to an extent post-war, because obviously he spoke with what everybody perceived was a German accent.
Yeah.
And he would turn up to the paddocks driving a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. He liked to drink champagne in the paddock.
Oh,
and of course, this was when beer and fags post-war for the dirty-fingered sort of UK lot were really wanting to race. So, and I think the sort of anti-German, even though he was Austrian sentiment, really existed, and he got a lot of flack, I think, unfairly, because he was improving these pre-war designs effectively, and was quite successful. I think that got people's backs up.
Yeah, well, that does, doesn't it, usually? There's always somebody, if you beat somebody, there's always somebody who puts a spoke in.
That's it, yeah.
But the thing is, so they obviously would have known all about him.
Yeah, yeah.
And when they were blundering around, probably thinking now, well, because originally it was, who was the man? Lord Stokes, was it? Or
Nuffield, yeah. Nuffield. William Morris, later Lord Nuffield.
They said, oh, we've got to do something about these bubble cars to Isagonis. So they obviously were thinking all sorts of angles.
That's right, yeah. And obviously this was a lightweight design, two-stroke, something completely different. I think they were just looking at different sort of prototypes to see what could be developed and sort of easily manufactured. I mean, for the Twingle, as they call them, the sort of twin single, the split singles, were a very good design in terms of volumetric efficiency for a two-stroke, because one of the cylinders controls the exhaust ports, the other cylinder controls the transfer ports. So as the two pistons come up sort of in synchronization, you get a slight supercharging effect, very good scavenging, and so they produced, better power than a standard two-stroke type engine.
So we reckon then that these cylinder heads, and you can see that it's got the number machined off, he would have had those in stock, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean they're standard Puch items.
He would have had them kicking around, so they just machined the edges off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what we're saying is that this engine was designed when he worked at Austin Rover or BMC.
BMC came in '54.
And so really what he did was he just stuck two engines together, really.
Basically, yeah, absolutely that. And they obviously just created the new moulds and cast this.
I mean, it wouldn't have been a two-bob job. I mean, to make all them patterns. And then obviously it's got the ignition on the front of the engine.
Yep.
So that would have two coils.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's it, really. So that's the next step. Obviously, we're going to get it all together. But the funny part was that when we were building the two-cylinder engine, I found this old Solex carburetor in amongst my junk. We put it on, we didn't change the jets or nothing, and it worked perfect.
No, that's it, yeah.
So then we get to this one, and we got this manifold. So the other day, I take that manifold, I go round to my box of old carburetors, and I find another carburetor which is exactly the same as that, but the next size up.
Yeah.
So that's obviously what we're going to use.
Perfect.
And obviously we'll have to put some oil in it, won't we?
Lifetime of collecting, it always comes in handy.
Yeah, what do you use? You use 20 to 1 in yours?
25 to 1,
Yeah, so we'll have to do that. And then John's made this up, obviously, to take the pipes. So we're going to have the pipes. So what we think we're doing is mounting it in there.
Yep.
So that we've got both engines together on the thing.
Fabulous.
And then obviously we're going to run it. So we thought it'd be quite funny, really, to run them both together and things like that. We'll have to move the battery, because that'll have to go on the outside there. But I think it'll be a bit of a laugh, really.
Yeah, wonderful.
So anyway, well, thanks very much, Arthur, because I didn't even know any of that.
No problem.
And obviously I wouldn't have remembered the names anyway.
Well, it's the footnote in history, but as I said, I think he got an unfair rap, really.
Yeah.
And he was developing right up until he died, and, after he died, he lived alone, and his relatives in America basically just said, well, gut the house and sell it, and everything that he had, all the engineering drawings, all the history of the MC, was just thrown into a skip outside. And I was lucky enough to be able to purchase some items which were really the last remains of the Ehrlich Motorcycle Company. So great pity, but
yeah, because obviously with this, getting this running and everything, it'd been quite nice to have had a pile of old papers, wouldn't it?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
But there we are, I mean, that happens a lot.
Yep. Pray to.
And it's not going to happen when I die, because I'm going to sell everything and spend the money.
Or the gold line coffin. You want to do it, yeah.
No, I ain't worried about the coffin. It's before I want to spend the money. But anyway, so there we are. Thanks very much, Arthur.
No problem.
You'll obviously be as famous as me now.
Well, one hopes.